I didn't mean to start talking about it tonight. It's late, the house is quiet, and I think the silence finally got too heavy. I was washing the last of the dishes when he said it. No build-up, no trembling voice, just facts, like he was reading tomorrow's weather. I've been seeing your cousin. For a second, the world didn't collapse. It stalled. The hum of the fridge, the drip of the faucet, his shoes on the tile. All still there. All pretending nothing had happened. I remember thinking how polite he sounded. Like an apology rehearsed so many times, it lost its pulse. I didn't shout. He looked almost disappointed that I didn't. Instead, I asked him when. He said, since before last Christmas. And that's when something strange happened. I smiled, because I already knew. It started with the phone calls. Number withheld. Answered silence. Then the scent of perfume that wasn't mine, on a scarf that was. And then, her. My cousin Lily. The one who never missed a family dinner, who hugged too tightly, who once told me, you're lucky, he really sees you. I'd been watching the both of them for months, collecting fragments of truth the way a child collects seashells, quietly, possessively. I told myself it was curiosity. It was survival. So when he finally confessed, I didn't break. I was relieved, because now, finally, he'd handed me the last piece. Is that all? I asked. He blinked, confused. Don't you have anything to say? I told him I did. I told him I had a surprise. He laughed. He thought it was sarcasm, but I meant it. I'd been keeping a journal. Every lie, every inconsistency, every night he worked late. Not because I wanted proof of betrayal, because I wanted to understand how people turn into strangers. Some nights I recorded myself speaking instead of writing. Little voice memos at 2 a.m., trying to capture the exact second love begins to rot. I never meant for anyone to hear them. But now, maybe that's the only way the story makes sense. He asked if I hated him. I said no. I said hate would mean I still cared about the version of him who could be hurt by it. And that version was gone months ago. He started crying. That almost broke me. Not because of what he did, but because for a moment, I believed the tears. Then I thought about Lily. Her messages, her timing, the way she always showed up after an argument. And I realized the affair wasn't just a betrayal. It was a pattern, a test. They wanted to see if I'd notice. The thing is, I did notice. And I noticed something else too. My cousin's car parked 2 streets away on nights she wasn't home. A second phone hidden in his drawer. And a message not from her, but from someone else entirely. That's when I decided the surprise would be mine. Not a scream, not a confrontation, something quieter. Something that would make them wonder what else I knew. So when he confessed, I didn't fall apart. I just smiled. Because the story he thought he was telling me wasn't the same one I'd been writing. People always ask why someone stays after betrayal. The truth is, you don't stay for love. You stay for clarity. After his confession, we didn't fight. We sat there, 2 polite ghosts finishing coffee. He kept talking, as if words might glue the night back together. I just watched the steam fade between us. That's when I started replaying everything in my head, every almost, every too long glance between them. There had been signs written in plain sight. I just preferred prettier stories. 2 weeks later, I invited Lily over. I said I wanted to clear the air. She came dressed like innocence, white blouse, trembling hands. I almost believed her until I saw the tiny scratch on her wrist, a familiar scratch from my kitchen drawer, from the key I'd hidden there months ago. That's when I realized the affair wasn't spontaneous. It was constructed, measured, purposeful, and my husband wasn't the engineer. She was. I spent nights listening to their recorded calls. My surprise wasn't revenge, remember, it was documentation. He thought he was confessing to protect her, but I could hear how she guided him toward it. Each word placed like bait. She wanted me to find out. She needed me to know. But why? That question kept me awake longer than the betrayal ever did. I started visiting her mother, my aunt. Little questions, harmless gossip. And there it was. Lily had been drowning in debt. Something about a failed startup, a silent investor who pulled out last year. My husband was that investor. So the affair was never about love. It was a transaction that turned into leverage. He thought he was rescuing her. She thought she
In a
was
world that
punishing
often
me.
feels
And
chaotic,
somehow,
finding
I'd
moments of
become
peace
the
and
audience
quiet
to
can be a
both.
true gift.
When you realize your marriage has been staged, the first thing that breaks isn't your heart, it's your timeline. Every memory becomes evidence. Every kiss feels like a reenactment. You start cataloging emotion like crime scenes. So I began filming us. Dinner, conversations, the long silences. At first, he didn't notice the camera tucked behind the bookshelf. When he did, he didn't ask. He just stared at it once, and something in his eyes said, "You win." But I wasn't sure what the prize was anymore. The recordings changed him. He became careful, too careful. He started sleeping in the guest room. Sometimes I hear him whispering on the phone, not to Lily, but to someone else. The same name appeared again and again in his texts, R. At first, I assumed R was a lawyer. Then I found a message. She's starting to suspect. Move faster. That's when the ground shifted again. The affair wasn't the story. It was the cover. Inside his briefcase was a document with both their signatures, his and Lily's, and a company name I didn't recognize. When I looked it up, it didn't exist. But the registration address did. It was a property we both owned, inherited from my late father. An empty space in my name. They were funneling money through my own inheritance. So my surprise evolved. I didn't confront them. I waited. I watched how truth rearranges people when they think no one's looking. And then I planned my reveal. You can love someone and still study them like evidence. I told him we needed a weekend away, to talk, to heal. He agreed instantly, almost grateful. We drove to the lake house. I brought a hidden recorder and the knowledge that Lily would follow. When she arrived, he looked surprised. I didn't, because the message that brought her there came from me. I wanted them both in the same room, where the lies would have nowhere left to echo. That night, I poured wine. We sat by the fire like old friends trying to remember a song. And I told them both I knew everything. The company, the money, the manipulation. No yelling, no threats. Just the truth, spoken softly enough to make it sound like mercy. They didn't deny it. They didn't apologize either. They just looked at each other and then at me, as if waiting for the next move. That was my mistake. I thought truth would end the game, but it only reset the board. The next morning, I woke to find them gone, their phones left behind, his car still outside, only the boat missing from the dock. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd run away together, until I noticed the half-burned papers in the fireplace. My journal, my recordings, my proof, everything but this tape. I thought I was documenting their betrayal. Maybe I was documenting my own. Because somewhere between collecting evidence and searching for truth, I stopped being a victim and became a participant. I wanted the reveal as badly as they wanted the secret. We were all guilty of the same thing, needing to be seen no matter the cost. They left me with emptiness and a question I can't answer. Did I push them to it? Did I orchestrate the ending without realizing it? Or did they finally understand the surprise wasn't for them? It was for me. Because now I have everything I wanted. Silence, freedom, and a story no one will ever believe. It's been 6 months since the lake. I don't dream about them anymore. Not exactly. Sometimes I just wake up to the sound of water, and it takes me a few seconds to remember where I am. They never found the boat. They never found them either. The police called it an accident. 2 people, middle of the night. The lake deep enough to keep secrets. I nodded. I cried when I was supposed to. I answered every question like someone rehearsing grief. But the thing about acting for too long is that sometimes you forget where the performance ends. I kept the house, the one they disappeared from. Everyone told me to sell it. Too many memories. But I couldn't, because the memory wasn't the problem. It was the silence afterward. Sometimes silence feels like punishment. Other times, it feels like a confession that no one's willing to say out loud. I visit the lake once a week, not out of guilt. At least, that's what I tell myself. I sit on the dock, watch the reflection of the sky, and wonder if the water remembers what I don't. Because here's the part I never told the police. That night, when they disappeared, I wasn't asleep. I heard them arguing outside, the kind of argument that sounds like truth breaking. I heard Lily say, "You told me she'd never find out." And his voice, quiet, desperate. She knew before I did. Then came the splash. Then, nothing. I waited 10 minutes before going outside. The boat was gone. 2 life jackets still on the dock. The fire almost out. And a phone, hers, still recording. I picked it up, listened. Half of their fight was about me, but the other half wasn't. It was about money missing from that fake company's account. Money that had been quietly rerouted weeks before. Money only one person could have moved. Me. That was my surprise. I didn't plan for them to die. I didn't plan for anything that followed. I just wanted them to know that I'd taken back control. That they couldn't manipulate something that no longer existed in their favor. I thought I was reclaiming my life, but the line between control and consequence is thinner than anyone admits. The police asked why I stayed in that house, why I still come to this lake. I told them grief makes people do strange things. They nodded, probably wrote it down. They never asked about the missing money. They never asked why I still wear my wedding ring. Maybe they assumed I couldn't let go. Maybe they were right, because every story needs a witness. And when everyone else is gone, you start playing both parts yourself, the storyteller and the ghost being told about. Sometimes I replay his confession from that first night. I still have the audio. He says, "I've been seeing your cousin." But if you listen closely, really closely, you can hear a pause before he says cousin. Like he's choosing the word. Like it wasn't the truth, but the safest version of it. I used to think that pause was guilt. Now, I think it was fear. Fear of what I might do when I learned how deep the lies went. The irony is, I wanted honesty so badly that I built a life where truth couldn't survive. If they had asked me then whether I'd do it all again, the recordings, the manipulation, the silence, I would have said yes. Because for a moment, the truth was mine alone. And in a world built on pretending, that felt like power. Now I see it differently. Truth isn't something you own. It's something that owns you back. People think betrayal destroys love, but sometimes it preserves it, frozen in the moment before everything broke. I still talk to him sometimes, just to the empty room. I tell him what I've learned, that love isn't the opposite of betrayal. It's the reason we forgive it for so long. And when I'm done, I turn off the recorder, listen to the echo of my own voice, and wonder which version of me he would have believed. The wife, the investigator, or the woman still waiting by the water. Maybe they never drowned. Maybe I did. Thanks for watching this video and listening to this story to the end. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Also, share your reactions with us in the comments section. See you in the next video.